Hi, everyone. Welcome to What Just Happened. I'm Christine Russo. Today I have Nitin Mangtani, EVP GM, Commerce Cloud and Retail Cloud, Salesforce. Welcome, Nitin.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks for having me on your podcast. It was great meeting you at Shop Talk, and I'm glad we followed up to do this podcast. So thank you.
I'm so grateful, especially since there have been some interesting announcements at the end of April, which we will be able to get into. So we are going to talk about all things agentic commerce.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement with both what we're doing here at Salesforce as well as our partnership with OpenAI and Gemini.
For sure. We'll get into all of that. So let me read what happened in case people didn't catch it on April 24th. Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Salesforce, and Stripe officially joined Universal Commerce Protocol Tech Council. This move signals a major industry consolidation behind an open standard for agentic commerce. And we're going to talk about why that matters. New members join existing members, Google, Shopify, Etsy, Target, Wayfair. And the objective is to expand the council to bring the experience and reach necessary to ensure UCP benefits every developer and business, regardless of their platform or payment provider, can get. Having this level of leadership on board is a win for the entire ecosystem as we build a future of agentic commerce that stays open, integrated, and accessible to all. Let's get your thoughts on that.
I'm going to start with actually just first talking about the experience. I always say that I'm a shopper first before I'm a technologist, because if you really enjoy shopping, then you can build great technology, not the other way around. And so let's talk about the shopper first, and then I'll talk about the protocol and the technical details and why it's a big thing. So if you think about shopping journey, it starts at multiple avenues, right? You might see something really amazing on TikTok, or you might do a search, and now you might be in Gemini and asking a question saying, I'm looking for a new blazer, and I want something a little bit more informal, a little bit more summary. In the olden days, you were just trying to type in a keyword, blazer. Now you can really express yourself as if you're in a real store and you're with an associate and he or she knows you, and you can have a full conversation of what you're looking for. And that same experience can also happen on your own. If you're a brand, it can happen on your own property, right? Whether you're Ralph Lauren or Coach or Louis Vuitton or Dior, right? Customers come to your website and they expect now to have a full conversation than simply typing in two keywords. And so the agentic conversation and thereby agentic commerce is a natural flow to it, right? Because we're talking to these chatbots like Gemini, Anthropic, and OpenAI about variety of things, and shopping is obviously one of those. And so then what happened is this concept in some ways is new, but in some ways it's not new, because shopping, same behavior happened in shopping when I was at Google back in early 2000, like 2006, 2007. People were discovering products on Google and doing comparison shopping. And then when they found the product, then they'll click on a link, right? And then social came in, Instagram, and same thing. The difference in the agentic is twofold. One is it's not just a two keyword, right? It's a full conversation. Second is not only we are trying to do discovery, where you're trying to find that blazer, but we also want to do shopping right there inside Gemini. And that's where the UCP comes in, right? It's a standard protocol. It's a standard way to integrate with an external system like Gemini to be able to make your products discoverable as well as shoppable right there inside Gemini. And instead of every single brand having to write their own integration, which is very time consuming and expensive, platforms like Salesforce Commerce Cloud have implemented this protocol so that with just one click of a button, you can enable this integration with Gemini and others. So that's really the entire story behind this.
So let me ask you a question. Is this, let's call it, okay, it's a tech council. So basically it's people around a table, metaphorically, creating a common language. And that works in tech, where you have open source and other protocols driving the entire movement, whatever the movement is, MCP, whatever, forward, right? So Do you think that this tech council, the formation and expansion of it, is in direct response to the shutting down of buying with inside LLMs that we saw 4 months ago by OpenAI, to create a more clear pathway, common language, etc., in order to do it?
I wouldn't say a direct response. I think it's like organically these things are growing, right? Like we're still in early stages. So OpenAI is doing some amazing innovations. Gemini is doing some amazing innovations, and priorities change. So OpenAI's a lot of priorities on discovery versus doing commerce inside OpenAI. And they might change their mind, and they have full right to decide what's right for OpenAI and what's priority. Google, on the other side, wanted to really make sure that the commerce also happens inside Gem. They wanted to double down. And they realized that for this protocol to be successful, you obviously need Google at the table, but you also needed platforms like Salesforce Commerce Cloud. And you needed payment partners because there's payments flow here, right? There's transaction, there is dollars exchange. So they invited all the partners, and it's open protocol, anybody can join. And they acknowledge, and by the way, like I wrote the initial protocols back in 2006 on how do you do catalog syndication to an external system. So if you are a brand and you wanted to share your product catalog with Google or any company, actually, I wrote those initial protocols, and they still, by the way, work, right? They're still leveraged by more than 1 million merchants globally, actually. They use these protocols. So Google had a lot more maturity in this space because they've been doing this since 2006, right? Since I was there. And by the way, you may not remember, but back in the days, it used to be called Frugal, the Google Shopping interface. And then they created Google Shopping and so on and so forth. So Google just had a lot more maturity in this space because they've been doing it for 20 years. And they understood the value of making a protocol which is open, and that way they get the adoption of it. And they were ambitious enough to think about commerce, both discovery and commerce. And OpenAI may adopt this protocol too. Like the protocol is open. There's nothing, not just OpenAI and Google, by the way. This protocol could be adopted by anybody, right? Because the intent of here is how do you enable commerce outside your own kind of walls? The term I use is that commerce will happen on owned and operated properties. These are the properties that you own as a brand, right? So if you're a coach, you own your .com site, you may have a mobile app, you have physical stores, you have a call center. So those are your owned and operated properties, and commerce will happen there. But commerce will also happen on what I call it syndicated channels, channels that you don't own, search, social, and now agentic. And this protocol could be used for any syndicated commerce. Any partner who wants to do syndication can leverage this protocol.
Okay, I love a new way of framing things. So I want to drill down on syndicated commerce. They're still identifying commerce by distribution channel. So let's spend a little bit of time framing how you're just bucketing it in two ways, which is so much better as it relates to this conversation of agentic commerce.
At Google, we used to use this term extensively. I didn't coin the term, but I definitely like the framing of it because I think it clarifies the distinction between owned and operated properties and syndication. The alternate term people obviously use is direct to consumer and wholesale. So pre-digital, right? People say, I'm going to sell through my own store, or I'm going to sell through a wholesale channel, which is a big box retailer, right? So the concept of doing commerce on your own property or an external, that even predates digital, right? That's not tied to the last 30 years of digital commerce. But yeah, I like the syndicated commerce concept because, as I said, that TikTok is doing some amazing stuff on commerce, for example. And as you're a brand, ideally, you don't need to worry about thinking about 50 different channels. Instead, you just think about one umbrella concept called syndicated commerce. And then you can still have a control saying, I want to participate in TikTok, I want to participate in Gemini, I want to participate in ChatGPT, I wanted to participate in Instagram. You decide where you want to participate, but it's themed under the umbrella called syndicated commerce.
Yes, it works. And the example that you gave, whether it's D2C or wholesale, again, that's a distribution channel. So let's pivot off of the Tech Council. Now let's talk about some of the ways that you and Salesforce and the ecosystem, because as you said, everyone's intertwined. This is so much a hold hands and jump into the lake moment, because no one single actor can make these things happen. So you've got to have payments, and then you've got to have catalog readability, etc.
So let's break the kind of integration into three parts, right? There is catalog syndication, because you have to syndicate your product catalog. And that's a well-defined kind of science. It's been done for last 20 years, as I said, even when I was back at Google in 2006. But that is still important. And in the agentic world, it gets a little bit more advanced, because you're trying to put a lot more semantics in your product catalog. So it's more richer and more elaborative than it was. Then there is the actual cart creation and checkout and text calculation. And do you have a loyalty program? Do you have a promotion and a coupon code? That all needs to be done correctly as well, because that impacts the total calculation of the order value, right? If you have a promotion or not, if you have a loyalty program, you get the points, right? So there's quite a bit of technology that goes into calculating the cart totals and understanding what is the shopping cart. It's all behind the scenes. It's not just behind the scenes. You can see it, what items are in your cart, but there's a lot more goes on behind the scenes in managing a life cycle of a shopping cart and the calculations thereby. And then there's the payment step after that. So once you hit submit, you capture payments, and then finally you process the order, because you have to ship the goods, right? And each step requires certain APIs, where these Gemini will interact with a platform like Salesforce Commerce Cloud, right? So we will expose the spec defines certain APIs and the behavior of those APIs through this protocol. And we are exposing those endpoints so that whether we are integrating with merchant A or B or C, those endpoints don't change, right? So we're not doing 1 to 100,000 integrations. It's just one integration for 100,000 merchants. And that's really the beauty of this protocol. But what equally excites me is that companies outside Google could also adopt this protocol. So it's not just Google, because it's an open protocol, other companies can also adopt, and it just becomes one way to integrate through this entire life cycle of commerce.
There's a lot of chatter that the readability of catalogs is different this time. It's not the same, and that agents need different inputs in order to read your catalog in order to find you when it's agentic commerce. Can you weigh in on that, please?
There's two parts to it. One is you still need the core tenets of a product catalog. You need to know what is the name of the product, what's the price, what sizes it's available in, what colors it's available in, what's the inventory, right? Is this blazer in color blue, size X, is that available right now or not? What category is it? Is it men's, women's, kids? What material or fabric this is? So those concepts still are relevant. They don't go anywhere. You absolutely need those. We used to call it attributes, and they're still called attributes, right? So a product catalog has 30, 40 attributes, right? And some of these haven't changed, even if you go all the way back to mail order. When we used to ship these catalogs to your home, that's in some ways it's a representation of your product catalog in a printed booklet, right? And that booklet still had the same metadata, by the way, right? It had title of the product, images, description, and what sizes it's available. And so that metadata, it predates even digital era, right? Because that metadata is still metadata, and that doesn't change. Now, what changes with agentic is, can you make it semantically more sophisticated? Can you tell us a little bit more about your blazer and augment your catalog? And pre-digital days, like the images, right? You couldn't extract a lot of metadata. The images have a lot to say, and you can extract a lot of metadata just from an image. And even if you don't have that tagged manually, you could just look at the image and say, I think this fabric is denim fabric, or I see some texture on this image which is unique to this style. And so a lot of extraction of that metadata was not possible or augmentation was not possible. But it doesn't replace the need of needing those core 30 to 40 attributes that you absolutely need it.
What's being said is agentic commerce is not familiar and it's not similar to the way that product catalogs are set up today, and that catalogs are built for human eyes, 2 words, and storytelling, and agents won't respond to that. I really want you to confirm that the catalog's a catalog, more or less. And 2, there's been a lot said that the photos are not there as a resource either for agents to extract information. That's also for human eyes. So it's a two-part.
That's not correct. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, first of all, it's not correct, right? So you need A plus B. We're not replacing A. We are adding B to make catalog semantically more richer and sophisticated for agents, but doesn't mean you're getting rid of A, which is the current metadata these product catalogs have. That metadata is still highly relevant. You still need to know what fabric it is, what size it is, and things like that. So those things don't go away. In fact, they are critical because otherwise you can't do commerce. Secondly, commerce is going to work in 2 different ways. There's going to be true agent-to-agent commerce, right? So if I'm trying to buy something which is fairly commodity, my grocery shopping, my essentials, my shaving cream, things which honestly, I don't need to go through a entire discovery process. I know what shaving cream I like, I know the brand I like, and I know the frequency I need that shaving cream. Or if I like body wash from Aesop, get me. L'Oreal is, by the way, one of our customers, which I'm very thankful for. We power, 100 plus sites for L'Oreal globally across their brands. So there are certain products like I know what I want. And my shopper agent, Nitin's shopper agent, is just going to place an order on my behalf. It's going to find the most efficient and save me money and place an order on my behalf, right? In that case, yeah, I'm not doing a lot of reading because I'm not even involved, because I'm just telling Nitin's shopper agent, go and just replenish this items for me at this frequency. And so that's part of the journey. The other part of the journey is I'm actively involved. I am on Gemini. I'm on my phone. I'm typing a query. I want to see the images, right? Without seeing the image of the blazer, I'm not buying that blazer. It's not like shaving cream where I don't need to see the image. I know how Gillette's shaving cream looks like, and I've been using it. So images are absolutely important when you're doing shopping, and there's a lot of metadata. Even if you take humans out of the equation, agents will be able to drive a lot of metadata. But a large portion of the shopping, humans are still going to be in the loop. It's not Nitin's. There is a portion of shopping that will be Nitin's shopper agent go and do the shopping on my behalf. But there's a huge portion of shopping which is not going to be Nitin's. It's going to be literally Christine instead of Christine's agent. And Christine is going to be on Gemini saying, I'm looking for a new sofa, and you might discover some really great products, but then you might eventually go to a Crate and Barrel store. Not only it's going to be beyond just digital, but you might go to a physical store and do that shopping because you want to actually try out that sofa, right? For example, Crate and Barrel is another amazing customers of our. They use our point of sale product. And if you look at their journey, they don't just think about digital, they think about online and offline. In fact, majority of the retailers think about. So it's not just agentic, it's not just online, it's actually online to offline. And in that journey, it's a lot more nuanced than simply buying a small commodity product.
There are many companies out there telling retailers and brands that they are not readable to agents and LLMs, that their catalog needs to be changed. Dude, that the photos, not you're going to see photos from the results. I want you to understand what I was asking. Yeah. Photos on your website are useless to the agents. No, wrong. Redo everything. This is what's being said.
No, it's A plus B. It's never.
What is B? Tell me what B is.
B is the augmentation, right? So if you can add more semantically sophisticated metadata, which was not available before, because these catalogs are all created manually today, right? So somebody's manually going to a PIM, product information management system, and typing in category and variants, like how many sizes, how many colors, texture. So a lot of this is manual. And that's totally required. Unfortunately, you can't get rid of it. The question is, could you automate it, right? Okay, if I could extract metadata from an image, right? That's amazing. Can I get some information from LLMs to augment this catalog, right? So if you know that this jeans, by the way, everybody on the social media is calling this jeans something unique now, which you may not be aware of, but everybody in the social media is talking about. Then go and augment your catalog with that extra metadata, right? So the augmentation is the B part. It's automated way of augmenting your catalog. That's what I'm calling it B. The A part is the core metadata that you still need. All these companies know how to sell. Like they will pitch, they'll make it fear, uncertainty. FUD is a classic old school way of sometimes getting people's attention.
When there's a new tech and there's management that's maybe not familiar with it, that's where fear comes in. Oh, FOMO. Wait, what am I missing out? Like, what's happening? What don't I know? I need to know these things.
Exactly.
The augmentation part, the B part, does Salesforce do that?
We just acquired this amazing company, Similar. These guys are just phenomenal team members. They're based in Boston. Several folks came from MIT and Stanford, PhDs, and they built two parts of the technology. The part one is building an amazing LLM-based search experience on your owned and operated property. So e-commerce search is not new. It's been around for ages, but they built a very sophisticated e-commerce search engine, which is semantically very rich, so they can understand very nuanced prompts. And then they also built this ability to augment the catalogs. So that's the two part of the technology they brought into the table for us. We closed the acquisition a month or so ago, and we are really excited to offer this technology to our customers.
So what excites you today, right now, going forward? First of all, there are a million announcements every day. You've got the hyperscalers doing their own thing, and then you've got all these partnerships announced, and it's a little bit of whiplash to keep up with the announcements. So that being said, that there's always something new coming. But as of right this moment, what excites you? What is your sort of near-term agenda in terms of meeting the industry where it is now and what its objectives are, which is agentic commerce, and moving the industry?
Yeah, there's two parts of the equation. If you look at the history of commerce, even when digital payments came into the picture, credit cards, and then eventually digital wallets, Apple Pay, Google Pay, we basically reduced the friction in commerce, the number of steps, the amount of time to reach your goal of buying certain things. And every time you reduce the friction in the journey of commerce, you increase the pie of commerce. You reduce the abandonment rates, you reduce the friction, commerce goes up. Apple Pay is a classic example. Every customer I meet, first thing I do, every customer I meet, if I'm in a physical store, I'll go and shop something and look at their POS, I'll give them feedback. If I'm with them, I'll pull up my phone, I'll go to their website, and I'll start searching. And when I like something on the PDP, I always tell every single customer, put the Apple Pay button right on PDP. Just skip the classic add to cart, then shopping cart, then checkout, then fill 20 fields. Just skip that entire flow. If I like this blazer, I am on the product page. Just let me press the Apple Pay button right here. And that reduces friction. And scientifically, we saw that increased the conversion rates, right? So similarly, like when we talk about agentic commerce, eventually the only metric that matters is customer engagement and conversion rate. Did you increase commerce or not? And so what agentic commerce is providing us is a twofold approach. One is it's making discovery much more elegant. It's almost like you are with a real human, an associate who knows you very well. For example, Nordstrom is known for their customer service, right? They've been known for ages, right? You go to a Nordstrom store, They'll always give you this amazing. Crate & Barrel is another example. They are known for their service. Louis Vuitton is another customer. They are known for their service. But how do you take that very concierge-driven, high-touch experience and digitalize it so that you can have the same conversation, but now on a .com site or a mobile app or on Gemini? And so that's the first benefit of agentic commerce. It's making things much more human-like, full conversation for discovery instead of just two keywords. And the second part is making the checkout process seamless. So it's easy. You're not jumping through 5 different steps, and you're just being able to use a digital wallet and then complete the checkout. So that's what we are going to see. And I'm pretty excited. I think it'll be really democratizing commerce where everybody gets a personalized concierge available to them 24/7.
Before we go, can I get your thoughts on, it's a big topic, so it's not a before we go kind of topic. So you tell me if we can spend 2-3 minutes talking about it, but I do want to talk about data a little bit. A lot of, again, just feeding you what's the chatterboxes are talking about, what the industry is buzzing about is the commerce industry and brands and retailers. There are definitely tiers of good, better, best, organized access to data within the commerce industry. And that if you're not best and you're just better, you need to be best, and if you're just good, you need to be better, because that's going to lead you on this journey to where the industry is heading, agentic commerce. Can you weigh in on that from a Salesforce perspective, from your own personal opinion?
We have always said that you want these agents to be honed in data. Otherwise, they're not going to give you correct answers. So if you think about data, pricing is important. You cannot show an incorrect price. Or if you're applying a BOGO, it should understand what a BOGO means and do the right recalculations in the cart. Inventory is extremely important. It will be a really bad experience if you sold a pair of shoes and then you realize you don't have that in size and you collected the payment from a customer. That would be a really bad experience. So inventory is very important. And then once you process the order, the integrity of the order is very important. Knowing the status, when are you going to ship the items, what's the delivery date. And from Salesforce perspective, we maintain all those three. We maintain the product catalog. We also acquired Informatica, by the way, which has some really advanced capabilities around data management, and also they actually have a beautiful product around product data and everything. And then we have Commerce Cloud, which maintains, as I was saying, shopping cart, so being able to calculate prices, discounts. We have a very advanced promotion engine. We also have a service called inventory management. So we manage inventory across online and in store. And in real time, we are able to know exactly this pair of shoes. Is it in the warehouse or is it in a store nearby you? And with our order management system, we are able to route that order based on where the inventory is. So product catalog, what we call it is commerce engine, which calculates everything, promo engine, inventory, and then order management or order routing and order processing. These are the core products that Salesforce has, and we are the most mature platform. We're doing it for 20 years. We made some amazing advancements in the last 18 months. This summer release, which is just going out next week, we have made tremendous progress in all these areas, and also making sure they are all agentic and agent aware.
Do you want to talk about the new release at all?
We have a completely new storefront, the front-end experience. As I said, it's agents and humans. It's not just agents, it's not just humans. It's agents and humans. So the front-end experience still matters when a human comes in. So we have built this completely new front-end experience to build your e-commerce front-end. But we also integrated with Claude Code, so you can do wipe coding. So you get an out-of-the-box user interface that is really easy to configure. But if you want to write code, now we have integrated with wipe coding, so you can also do that. We built a bunch of things around visual merchandising. So if you wanted to rank certain products higher or new arrivals, you can do that through a very advanced visual merchandising tool. And then I mentioned to you about Simulate. The Simulate acquisition is very powerful, and it brings us this whole new next generation agentic capabilities on owned and operated properties. It's the properties that you own. We obviously spend a lot of time in this discussion around syndicated commerce, and that we have done as we are part of UCP and have partnered with Gemini, but also with OpenAI. So that's been going on for some months now. So yeah, I'm really excited. I think we're just scratching the surface of where commerce is going to be. And more importantly, as I said, there's the geekiness of commerce, but we shouldn't forget the fun part of commerce. And we want to make sure we leave the joy in commerce and the fun in commerce.
I completely agree. And that's a perfect place to wrap up our conversation. I really want to thank you for your time, your thoughts, and for sharing with us what's coming.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks for your time. I truly enjoyed our conversation. And yeah, looking forward to catching up with you at a future event.
I'm Christine Russo, and that is what just happened.